the driveway strip. In a city, you should really consider it another opportunity to garden. This is a garden for some people, and it may be their only garden. There are a wide variety of things you can do in a driveway strip. I'm standing in front of the sedum that Josh and Taylor have chosen to use for the large portion of this stretch here. And actually on the farther end, sort of flanking on that end, are a number of other sedums. And I think far and away it's probably one of the best bets is to go with a sedum. They form a nice tight mat, especially as I mentioned the native sedums. And because they're succulents, they don't need a whole lot of summer water. A little bit of summer water would definitely help. So, you know, just like any kind of garden, you can't just set it and forget it, but these guys will help you forget it for a little while. As I mentioned, the Sedum Succulent stuff over here is, these are great, they're easy to divide. I would highly recommend the Sempervivum, the hens and chicks, that's one of my favorites up front there too, because every single one of these you can pop off and basically plant on their own, and that will grow and compound into this. So you're actually getting 11 plants for one with every one of these. You're getting about 40 plants for one in a gallon size Sempervivum. More sun on this half, more shade on this half is how I've arranged them. And typically that means a little more thirsty over here for the most part, especially in the summer. These guys, you know, the sun rose, Helianthemum, this is related to St. John's wort. It's Hypericum, same species, or same genera. And they'll ramble. This will get a little bit taller, so you'll want to do a test. I know Josh and Taylor were talking about running the Prius up and down the driveway and making sure that you could get clearance. But in general, I think, you know, especially if you're not driving up and down your driveway a lot, you can go up to a good 12 inches high. And one thing to keep in mind is that grasses like this will end up getting a flower head that's twice as high here. So that's okay. It's only some parts of the year that flower is there, and they're very wispy. It's almost like a volume that's not there because most of it is air. So don't shy away from it, even if the grass says, you know, reaches 18 inches in flower height. I think that this is a great way to introduce some color and texture into what might otherwise just be a mat, and some vertical as well. From a design standpoint, it's really fun to introduce stuff like this Armeria sea thrift. This is really what it does. It's this little mound and it just pops with flowers. And I've seen whole lawns made of this stuff that are so playful and fun. And when they all bloom, it's like popcorn sort of coming up. But don't be afraid to mix this in with something else that's got a different texture, and then you'll get these kind of neat little arrangements and mounds. I always tell people it's good to, don't do onesie twosies. If you're gonna do, if you really want this to have some presence, plant at least 3 together. And you know, if you're willing, plant 7, 9, 15. You really get a better sense of a mass when you do more than just onesie twosies. Down into a little more shade tolerant, I was talking to some of you about if you want more of a sort of tropical, bold, maybe like a goth garden, you can go with this black Mondo grass. And I like to call it a tuxedo garden when you put it next to something white. And then you introduce another element here where you get some purple flowers, and you've instantly got this arrangement that works really well, even though individually you might not think they would work. So 3 different perennials, and well, 2 different perennials and a grass. These are gonna die back probably. Actually, these will remain relatively evergreen, but the perennials will die back and go dormant. So keep in mind you might need to do some weeding here and there if you're going with a more perennial based garden versus the mat forming garden.